What did you guys just see? These are real images taken by a Ukrainian drone. It's flying towards its target in the Black Sea. Another Russian ship that, moments after, would disappear from the map. But this wasn't just any ship. It was a very special ship for the Russian fleet. And when I say special, it's because Russia has very few of these ships. Do you know what makes this attack even more important? It's not just what was hit, but where it happened. It was exactly the place where they fled to. That, well, completely changes the game. To understand why this specific attack is so devastating for Russia, first, you need to know exactly what kind of ship was hit. This wasn't just an ordinary destroyer or a frigate with huge guns. It was something much more valuable and much rarer, and multi-purpose salvage vessel. 07 Project ship. Now, do you want to know why this ship is so special? Well, let's start with its price. Each of these ships costs about $60 million to build. And secondly, there's its rarity. Russia has only 5 ships of this type in its entire fleet. 5. When you lose one, you're literally losing 20% of your entire capacity in that category. But the real value of this ship isn't in its price, it's in what it's capable of doing. We're talking about a high-tech spy ship here. It carries deep-diving equipment that can operate up to 300 meters deep. It also has a side-scan sonar to map the sea floor. And, even more importantly, it was equipped with electronic reconnaissance systems, the famous RER systems. And do you want to know what that means in practice? In a few words, this ship was the eyes and ears of the Russian fleet in the Black Sea. It could detect Ukrainian underwater drones, map the seabed looking for mines, and intercept enemy communications. It was as if Russia had just lost one of its main naval intelligence sensors. And here's the detail that makes it all even more impressive. The Ukrainian drone didn't just hit the ship any old way. It was a surgical strike with absolute precision. They hit right at the nerve center of any military vessel. It's what they call the ship's bridge. That's where the navigation equipment is, the communication systems, and all the electronic reconnaissance equipment. In other words, that's exactly where all the ship's most valuable technology was concentrated. Now stop and think. A single drone, which cost a fraction of the price of the ship, destroyed the most important equipment on board. And that, well, created a devastating economic equation for Russia. They spent $60 million to build that ship. Ukraine spent a few $100,000 to take it out of action. But let's get to the point that really changes everything in this story. Why does the location matter so much? Take a look. The attack happened near the port of Novorossiysk, and Novorossiysk was where Russia had moved its most valuable ships to keep them safe. For more than 200 years, the Black Sea Fleet had its main base in Sevastopol, in Crimea. Sevastopol has always been considered one of the most fortified and secure naval bases in the world. But constant Ukrainian attacks made Sevastopol unsustainable. Ukrainian drones and missiles began hitting targets inside the port itself. And with that, Russia was forced to do something unthinkable. It moved its most important ships to Novorossiysk, effectively abandoning its historic base.
The Russian military recently moved several Black Sea Fleet ships from occupied Sevastopol in Crimea to Novorossiysk in Krasnodar Krai, likely in an effort to protect them from continued Ukrainian strikes on Russian assets in annexed Crimea. The Institute for the Study of War says satellite imagery shows that Russian forces transferred at least 10 vessels from Sevastopol to Novorossiysk. including 3 diesel submarines, 5 landing ships, and several small missile ships. A dynamic deep strike battle is underway in the Black Sea. This is likely forcing Russia into a reactive posture, while demonstrating that Ukraine's military can undermine the Kremlin's symbolic and strategic power projection. From its warm water port in occupied Sevastopol,
The problem is that this safe haven has just proven to be completely vulnerable. If Ukraine managed to attack high-value ships near Novorossiysk, then there is no truly safe port left for the Russian fleet in the Black Sea. And this, as you can probably imagine, creates an impossible dilemma for the Russians. They can even keep their ships in Sevastopol, which has the best facilities for maintenance and missile reloading, but it's vulnerable to attacks. Or they can keep them in Novorossiysk, which has inferior facilities, but now it's also proven to be vulnerable. What became clear after this attack is that Russia has lost strategic control of the Black Sea. Its ships can no longer operate freely in waters they've controlled for decades. But the impact of this attack goes far beyond just a damaged ship. Because when you neutralize an electronic reconnaissance ship, you're doing much more than causing material damage. You're blinding the enemy. Without this ship operational, the Russian fleet lost one of its main tools for monitoring Ukrainian activity at sea. Now, they can no longer map the seabed as efficiently to detect mines, and they can no longer track Ukrainian underwater drones with the same accuracy. As if that wasn't enough, they also lost the ability to intercept enemy communications. In military terms, this is called a kill mission. In other words, the ship doesn't need to sink completely to become useless. It just needs to lose the ability to fulfill its main function. And that's exactly what happened. The ship was forced to return for repairs, which could take months. During this time, Russia will operate with reduced naval intelligence capability in a region that has become increasingly dangerous for its forces. And this attack was not unique. It is part of a much larger pattern that Ukraine has executed with impressive precision. They are not simply attacking ships at random. They are carrying out a strategic naval campaign aimed at weakening Russian capabilities. Just a few weeks earlier, on August 28th, Ukraine carried out another devastating attack, this time against a Buyan-M corvette in the Sea of Azov. This attack followed an even more sophisticated methodology. First, they blinded the ship by destroying its radar systems. Then, they attacked the hull and the missile launcher area. The Buyan-M corvette was a missile carrier. Caliber, exactly the same missiles that Russia uses to bomb Ukrainian cities, they knew. Neutralizing this ship meant directly reducing Russia's ability to launch long-range missile attacks. Here we see the Ukrainian strategy working as intended. That's because Russia has only 12 Buyan-M corvettes in total. Each one that goes out of operation represents a significant reduction in Russia's offensive capability. And the numbers? Well, they show the real impact of these attacks. The rate of Caliber missile launches from the sea has dropped drastically. In July, August, and September of this year, there were only 4 launches in total, and even those few missiles were intercepted by Ukrainian air defenses. Most of the time, Ukraine achieved something that many experts considered impossible. A nation without a conventional navy effectively neutralized one of the most powerful fleets in the world. They did this using asymmetric technology, low-cost drones, and innovative tactics. And this brings us to the economic reality of this war for Russia. Stop and think about it. Each ship lost or damaged represents a direct and, in most cases, irrecoverable loss. These are resources that could have been used on other fronts of the war, but now need to be allocated for repairs or replacements. The Russian economy is already under extreme pressure due to the costs of the war, which reach $1 billion per day. Each successful Ukrainian attack adds more pressure to a budget that is already stretched to the limit. The attack on the ship near Novorossiysk marks a decisive moment in this naval campaign. It proves that Ukraine has developed the capability to strike high-value targets anywhere in the Black Sea. There are no more safe havens for the Russian fleet. This fundamentally changes the balance of power in the region. The Black Sea, which Russia had controlled for decades, has now become a contested zone where Ukraine can impose significant costs on any Russian movement. And this story is far from over. Ukraine continues to develop new capabilities, including long-range missiles like the Long Neptune, the Flamingo, and the Sapsan. These new systems promise to further extend the reach of Ukrainian operations, putting Russian targets far beyond the Black Sea at risk. Now, the most impressive thing in this story is how Russia is responding to these attacks. They ended up exposing the limitations of traditional naval tactics in a modern warfare scenario. Defense systems, which were previously designed to intercept conventional missiles, now have difficulty against swarms of small and easily maneuverable drones. Defenses that cost millions to install are being overcome by attacks that cost a fraction of that amount. This cost disparity makes a purely defensive strategy unsustainable for Russia, and the numbers confirm this reality. Estimates indicate that the total damage caused by Ukrainian naval drone attacks has already exceeded $500 million. This represents a huge amount of resources that Russia has lost irretrievably. The attack on the spy ship near Novorossiysk, Russian is a symbol of this new reality. A relatively simple drone neutralized decades of investment in advanced naval technology. It proved that at sea, just like on land, tactical innovation can overcome material superiority. Now, I want to know your opinion. What impressed you the most about this story? Leave your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed this content and want to keep following more detailed analyses about modern military conflicts, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. And if you think your friends will also be interested in this story, share the video with them. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. See you in the next video.